Good afternoon, everyone. The honorable educators, I'm Amirah Amin and I'm from SMKN 43 Jakarta. As the opposition, we strongly oppose to the motion that Indonesia should adopt a student loan mechanism as the primary way to finance higher education in Indonesia. Student loan only makes sense if economies were reliably converts into a sustainable, well-paying employment. That condition does not constantly exist in Indonesia. First, in Indonesia, being a university graduate does not guarantee a proper job after graduation. Many graduates face underemployment, informal work, or work unrelated to their field or their study. This breaks the core assumption behind student loans that future incomes will be sufficient and predictable enough to repay the debt. When that assumption fails, the student loans stop being an investment tool and become a long-term financial burden. Second of all, Indonesia does not have enough formal sector jobs to absorb the growing numbers of the graduate each year. The labor market cannot keep pace with the expansion of higher education. Even qualified graduates compete for limited positions, creating oversupply in many fields. Adding debt on top of the limited employment opportunities increases financial risk for young people without addressing the root problem. So, this mismatch means the student loan increases systematic pressure on the graduates. Those who cannot find suitable jobs are still required to repay the debt, pushing them into any available work, regardless of the skill or their career path. This leads to inefficient labor allocation and wasted human capital. First of all, the proposition argues, but scholarships are limited. We reject this as a false dilemma. The existence of limited scholarships does not justify replacing the grants with debt. It only shows that public funding needs to be expanded, not substituted. The correct policy response is to increase state investment in education, broaden eligibility for need-based aid, and improve targeting efficiency, not to shift costs to students through loans. Student loans deepen inequality in already fragile job market. Wealthier students can avoid debt, while poorer students are forced to take financial risk for the same uncertain employment outcomes. This compounds inequality across both education access and post-graduation financial stability. The student loan models also suffer from real-world implementation failures, as seen as the experience of institutions like LPDP KUMKM. LPDP programs have historically struggled with accurately selecting beneficiaries who are both in need and capable of productive repayment. This leads to the leakage fund going to borrowers who are either too risky or not optimal enough to productive. A student loan system would face the same challenges on a much larger scale because it involves millions of young people with highly uncertain future earnings. The proposition refers to the Singapore. It's not a valid comparison to Indonesia because the two countries operate under fundamentally different economic and institutional conditions. Singapore, on the other hand, has a high formalized labor market, strong graduate employment outcomes, and high average incomes, which makes student loan repayment predictable and financially sustainable. It also has a very strong tax collection and employment tracking system that allows efficient enforcement for the loan repayment. In contrast, Indonesia has a much larger informal sector, less stable graduate employment outcomes, and weaker incomes tracking systems, meaning many graduate does not have a guaranteed or consistent earning after graduation. In context such, introducing student loan it could carry a high risk of default and long-term financial stress. Moreover, Indonesia already has a more suitable alternative in form of KIP Kuliah, which provides direct, non-repayable support to the students and avoids the structural risk of debt. Therefore, Singapore's model works because of its unique structural advantages, not because student loans are universally appropriate, making it an unsuitable benchmark for Indonesia. So, over time, this kind of sustained economic anxiety can negatively affect mental well-being as individuals face constant uncertainty about repayment, job stability, and future financial security. Unlike grant-based systems such as KIP Kuliah, which removes repayment pressure entirely for the students, student loans transfer the risk to individuals and can intensify the feeling of instability during critical transition in period in life. So in Denmark and KIP Kuliah are similar in principle because both systems are reduced financial barriers to higher education by shifting the cost away from students and towards the state. In Denmark, higher education is largely publicly funded, meaning students generally do not pay tuition fees and can access additional state supports for living costs, which ensures that access to university is based more on ability than personal financial background. Similarly, KIP Kuliah in Indonesia provides tuition coverage and financial assistance for the students from lower income families, allowing them to pursue higher education without taking on debt. Although Denmark operates on a more universal and comprehensive welfare model, while KIP Kuliah is targeted and mean-tested, both of the systems share the same core philosophy. Education should be supported through public funding rather than the student borrowing itself. So, education should open opportunities, not trap Indonesian students in debt for the jobs that may not even exist. That's all from me.